Hey everyone, so I'm going to go over chapter 2 of Spring Starts Here. So chapter 2 is about really two things. One is the spring context, and the second is defining beans. But before I even get into that, I just want to go over quick big picture stuff. So the spring context is essentially a container, right? So we can put spring context. It's basically a container that holds instances of objects or classes. So essentially what we want is we want to put instances inside the container, and whenever we need them, we can pull them from that container. And as an example, let's say I have a class called Weedle.java, right? So a class called Weedle, like the Pokemon. And so I have this class, and so in general what we do is we instantiate them. So in this case we'll do, let's say Weedle w equals new Weedle. And so when we do this, basically we're instantiating the Weedle class. And so let's say I were to instantiate it, it would probably look something like this. 4, 5, 9. All right, so now we took this Weedle class. We basically wrote this one-line statement, right, where we're instantiating the class, and so now we create this object. Now, in Spring, we want to put instances of objects inside this container in order to reuse it later. So what we want to do is we want to grab this Weedle and we want to put them in here. So the question is going to be like, how do we do this? Well, we do it by defining beans. But let me just keep going a little bit further with this example. Let's say I have another class, let's call it a trainer class, right? And inside this trainer class, I have a Weedle field. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to avoid having to write this statement. So I don't want to rewrite this statement. I don't want to instantiate another class. I want to use this Weedle that was already in the context, and I want to inject it into this field. And so this is what we would call DI, or dependency injection. So basically what we're doing is we're creating instances of class, we're putting them into the Spring context, and then from the context we can reuse these in a different class or somewhere else. And when we do this, this is basically dependency injection, and this is what we try to accomplish with Spring. So in this specific lesson, which is chapter 2 of Spring Starts Here, what we're going to go over is the Spring container and how to create beans. And when you create a bean, basically you're instantiating a class and you're putting the instance into the container. In chapter 3, we'll learn about this part, which is kind of injecting it into a different class. But this is kind of like the big picture idea of it. And let's actually go over some of the implementation.